Hey friends, it's Tuesday night. It is time for our Tuesday Worship Express. It is cold in this town. It is cold, not so cold in here. Thanks to Pastor Gary for programming the heat for me. Appreciate that. But just welcome back. Welcome back to another Tuesday night. Sometimes when we read our Bible stories and then we get to see them come to life, it's really exciting to kind of put those two things together and make it real, or be able to relate to something that we've read in the Bible. So tonight I want to talk about two things, and one of those has to do with taking the impossible, hi Pastor Gary, and making it possible. And we know it's a given that one of those things is with God. With God, all things are possible, right? So the story that I want to share with you tonight is from the book of 1 Samuel. And it's just a really good story. So I hope that when you have time that maybe you'll go back and read the story. But we are in chapter 14, and we've got the Philistine army and the Israelites. And there are a lot of things that happen before what's getting ready to happen, what I'm going to share with you. But in this story, the Israelites have no weapons. And this is the day of battle, and they have nothing. And that is because right before this story, we learned that the Philistine army took all of the blacksmiths out of the town and got rid of them so that the Israelites could not have any weapons made. And so that was a strategic move on their part. Now in the story, what's getting ready to happen is we've got King Saul and his son Jonathan. Those are the only two from the Israelite army that have weapons. So Jonathan and his armor bearer, which if any of you don't know what an armor bearer is, because I didn't, I had to kind of look it up. It kind of is self-explanatory, but it is someone who carries your armor, kind of like a golf caddy, I guess, that carries your golf clubs as you golf. This armor bearer and Jonathan decide to sneak away when no one is looking, and Jonathan is the only one who has a weapon. So keep that in mind. So this is what happens next in 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 6. Jonathan said to his armor bearer, "Come, let's go to the outpost of those Philistines. Perhaps the Lord will act in our behalf. Nothing can hinder the Lord from saving, whether by many or by few." Now this next part is what really gets me, and it makes me really think about the people that are in my life. "Do all that you have in mind," his armor bearer said. "Go ahead. I am with you, heart and soul." Mind you, they don't have any weapons. Maybe one sword that Jonathan has. But the armor bearer has nothing. He's just saying, "I'm with you." Hi, Mary Lou. He's saying, "I'm with you, heart and soul. I will follow you," not knowing what's on the other side. So some of the things that we need in our lives are a new mindset to take us from the impossible to the possible. God is a given, but sometimes we need that new frame of mind, a new perspective to help push us closer to a possible way of thinking. And that is what was happening with Jonathan and his armor bearer. We need people in our lives who will bear up with us and say, "I'm with you. I am for you. I see what's getting ready to happen. And even though we don't have any weapons and we don't have the things that we need, God is with us. And if God is with us, then who can be against us?" So sometimes on Sunday nights, we meet with our youth group here in the church. Sometimes we meet at the camp if it's warm enough and we can be outside. But there are some Sunday afternoons that I don't have the energy, or I don't have the message to share for inspiration or for encouragement that I want to, that I like to do. And so then it's more games than anything sometimes. But most Sundays it's not. And most Sundays I'm able to get it together. But sometimes it's at the last minute. And most of the time, this might sound corny to some of you, but Bo is my armor bearer. And he says to me, whatever you've got for us tonight is going to be great. I'm with you. Let's walk in there. Let's do this. Throw some questions at me and I will answer, and I will try to be an example. And, we need those people in our lives who are going to bear up and walk through some really hard times with us. Not that Sunday nights are a hard time, but that's just one example of someone who is in my corner, someone who is on my side and sees me and gets me. We need those people in our lives. So back to Jonathan and the armor bearer for a minute. They were bold. They prayed for a sign from God. They were given a sign, and they went and they claimed victory against this army, this Philistine army, who had all the weapons in the world, and they had one sword. So this also got me thinking. My family and I watched a movie this weekend, and this is what I meant in the beginning, that sometimes we're able to see things brought to life. And in this story, we see these two people, Jonathan and his armor bearer, and they're walking through a situation that kind of seems impossible. But they prayed, they had God with them, and they were able to do what they needed to do, and they claimed victory. So this weekend, like I said, we were watching a movie. And it was based on a true story of this Christian singer named Jeremy Camp. And it was about his life and the woman that he married when they were early 20s, I believe, is when they met. I'm not going to give it all away, but the movie is called I Still Believe. And from this movie came a song and lots of people who were touched by this story of encouragement. In the beginning of the song, he says, I still believe in your faithfulness. I still believe in your truth. I still believe in your holy word. Even when I don't see it, I still believe. And the struggle and the battle that this young woman goes through, this woman that he marries, he was her armor bearer in this story. And he bears up with her and he says, I'm with you. I want to walk through this with you. I don't know what's going to happen, but I love you and I'm with you. And because of that, he was able to share the faith with an entire community of believers. And that song is played today, and it's a beautiful song by Jeremy Camp. In the movie, this woman says, suffering doesn't damage our faith, it strengthens it. And, we've learned that time and time again in some of these stories that we've gone through on Tuesday nights about, Job and Joseph's story and the suffering that they both went through. It wasn't for nothing. And it didn't damage them, but it strengthened their faith. And it made them move from the impossible to the possible. And all of that was done through God and with God. And again, if God is for us, then who can be against us? So if you get a chance to see this movie, I Still Believe, it's a good reminder of being faithful and still loving God, even when you don't understand and you don't see the outcome until it's there. So I want to leave you with this. Thinking about the two things of changing our perspective or getting a new perspective, if that's what we need to do to move from the impossible to the possible with God, something that we're struggling with. And then thinking about number 2, who are our armor bearers? Who's going to bear up in our lives and say, I will get you there. I am with you, heart and soul. And we know that God is on our side, but who else is with us? Who are those people that we're surrounding ourselves with that are for us? Those are the two things tonight, is a new perspective sometimes, and then who are our armor bearers? We want to be able to walk through life helping people and having people help us. And that is what it's all about. If you remember last week, We talked about keeping it simple, love God and love people. And so I just want to encourage you that even when life feels impossible or a situation feels impossible, there is light on the other side, and God is with you. And we need to surround ourselves with those people who are with us. So I pray that you have a great week, that you are staying warm, and that you do see light at the end of the tunnel if you are struggling with something that feels impossible. We love you, and we just hope that you stay in love with God. I'll see you next week.